5 tips for users of electronic sites, also known as red dot sites. Greetings, my people. Today we're talking about tips for using or for users of red dot sights. And it turns out that when you switch from iron sights, the normal sights on a pistol, and start using an electronic red dot sight, it's a transition that often isn't that easy because the dynamic of using a red dot sight is totally different. And I say this from my own experience, having had to adapt. I've been using electronic sights for a couple of years now. It's a huge advantage, but yes, the dynamic is very different and it takes time to adapt, to get used to the new sights. And that's why today we bring you 5 tips for red dot sight users. The third of these tips is quite critical. Let's get to it. Tip number 1, buy a good quality sight. Cheap turns out expensive, and the use of sights is a prime example of that. Not just electronic red dot sights, any sight you put on any firearm. Sometimes we don't want to spend a lot of money on a sight, especially if the firearm isn't worth that much. But believe me, you're going to have a lot of trouble if the sight you use is of poor quality. So buy a sight that is of good quality, that is well recommended, that is a recognized brand. They say out there that a good rifle with a bad sight will give you a lot of bad times. And a rifle that isn't so good with a good sight will give you very good times. So the same applies to red dot sights. Use a good quality sight. I've seen many people with cheap sights that unfortunately when they go to the shooting range, they're practicing, the sight doesn't hold zero. It moves with the vibrations. It loses the adjustment. It loses the calibration. And then you have a lot of trouble. And if it's a sight for your personal defense, you need that sight to always be well adjusted and hold zero. No matter how many times you shoot, that sight must hold zero. Calibrate your sight at 25 yards distance. Well, I've seen many people who want to calibrate sights at 7 yards, at 5, at 3 even, at 15, 21. The recommendation for most red dot sights is to calibrate, adjust, or rather set the zero at 25 yards. That means that for you to move those adjustment screws on the sight when you are adjusting it, pardon the redundancy, it should be at a distance of 25 yards. What does this have to do with anything? It has to do with the fact that most pistol calibers, or rather the most commonly used pistol calibers like the 9mm especially, 40 and 45 caliber, 357, those calibers up to 25 yards have a fairly straight trajectory. From there on, things start to vary with these calibers. So it has to do with ballistics. We're not going to go into too much detail about ballistics because we'd spend 5 days analyzing ballistics. But it has to do with the ballistics of pistol calibers, especially the 9mm. At 25 yards is best. If you shoot at a shorter distance, the difference won't be much. If you shoot at 7, 10, 15 yards, we're talking maybe an inch, a quarter of an inch difference, and who knows if less at those distances. So it's best to calibrate at 25 yards. Well, and I have my sight at 25 yards, okay? Let's take 5 shots. Let's see, here I am, 25 yards. Here we go. Here we go. Haha. Of course. Tip number 3. An error I see a lot at the shooting ranges people with red dot sights who, to rack the slide, do it by grabbing the sight and using the sight to rack the slide. I've seen many of these sights where the screws, over time, they break, and during practice, the sight goes flying. The sight is not made for you to be pulling on it like that every time you're going to rack the slide, right? Of course, I know that in an emergency, you're faced with a situation and you have to grab the sight and pull. Perfect, it's an emergency. But my advice is that when you're going to rack the slide, don't use the sight for that. Grab where you should grab and then rack your slide the way you have to rack it. Leave that sight nice and easy there, quiet, so it doesn't have many problems and is happy, let's say, mounted on a slide where nobody is constantly hitting it. Tip number 4. With red dot sights, you aim with both eyes. With both eyes, and not only that, but you have to get used to placing the pistol right in the center of your face. That way you can find the dot faster. The dot. The difference is that users of open sights, iron sights, usually we hold the pistol a bit more to the side because we close one eye to align the sights. I don't know if you can see, if you can notice in the video, the difference that the pistol, I'm exaggerating there, but usually we do this, like we move our head to one side. And when we transition to an electronic sight, it's hard for us to learn that instead of doing this and closing one eye, we have to get used to placing the pistol in the center, straight ahead, and both eyes open. Both eyes open. A good exercise to achieve that is to cover the red dot sight in the front. Okay? We cover it with tape, as you can see there, and then that's going to force us to always open both eyes. Every time we practice, if you close one eye, you won't see, you'll see the dot here, but you won't see the target. So it does force you in this way to center the sight here, center of the face, both eyes open. With one eye, you are seeing the electronic dot, the green dot in my case, and with the other eye, you are seeing the target. I am aiming right at the center of the camera. There it is. And finally, tip number 5. Practice, 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 practice. How many times am I going to say it? Practice a lot with a red dot sight. The transition from iron sights, open sights, to a red dot takes time. It's a totally different system, as we've seen, especially in the previous tip, number 4. And you must practice, practice, practice until you get used to it. The hardest thing to achieve is when you draw and have the pistol in front of you, is finding the dot. That is the biggest difficulty I find in new users of electronic sights, that they take a lot of time to be able to find the dot. And of course, if it's a weapon for your defense, you must find the sight immediately to be able to make an effective shot where you need to make it. So practice, 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 practice until you master the matter of finding the sight quickly. Friends, and that's all for now. Again, thank you for joining me in this video. I hope it has served you. It has been useful. You have learned something new. Let me know in the comments if you have anything else to add as well. That way we all learn, as always. I'm Jaime, President and founder of the AlphaCalibre Agency for Investigation Security, Firearms Training, and Online Gunsmithing. Thank you very much, and see you next Saturday.